If I had a nickel for every time Ikram Aliskerov was knocked out by the rear right uppercut, I'd only have 2 nickels, but it's still a kind of a weird coincidence. If you missed it last night, the main event of UFC Saudi Arabia, Robert Whittaker did his thing and knocked out the short notice replacement of Ikram Aliskerov. We also had Alexander Volkov putting on a masterclass performance against the heavy-hitting Sergei Pavlovich. You had Kelvin Gastelum having a fantastic fight despite the terrible weight cut. And then you had Shara Bullet, you had Volkan Ozdemir going out there and getting a really big knockout win. So who should Robert Whittaker fight next? First of all, comment that, guys. Tell me who you think he should fight next. This was Robert Whittaker's first knockout since 2017, guys. Since he fought Jacare Souza. Think about that for a second. He fought Jacare Souza. That's the last knockout. He's been in some banger of a fight. He's been in some banger fights, guys. I mean, it really has just been fantastic from him. And I'm pulling up the Tapology page because, you know, I'm never prepared. But yeah, so Ikram Aliskerov steps in on 2 weeks' notice. He was supposed to fight Khamzat Chimaev, and lo and behold, Chimaev pulls out like he always does. I mean, let's be honest. We can't rely on Khamzat Chimaev anymore. I'm looking at, I got it pulled up now, guys. Since 2017, he's fought Romero twice, Izzy, the first loss, fought Darren Till, Cannonier, Gastelum, Izzy, Vittori, Dricus, Paulo Costa, and now Ikram Aliskerov. The first knockout since Jacare before those fights. But yeah, we can't rely on Khamzat Chimaev anymore. He doesn't show up. The guy never shows up, and he didn't show up to this weekend. This card was built around him. This was supposed to be his coming out party, and Chimaev just, oh, I got food poisoning. Bro's pulling up for food poisoning 2 weeks before the fight. I'm angry about it, and you can tell I'm angry about it because that was whack. I really wanted to see what Khamzat Chimaev could bring to the table, and he didn't bring anything. Now, the reason I brought up the whole Ikram Aliskerov getting knocked out by 2 rear right uppercuts is because it's happened twice. He's got 2 losses, and both of them are from rear right uppercuts. Khamzat Chimaev obviously did it to him back in Brave. That was years and years ago, and that's the only knockout loss that he has on his record. And now Robert Whittaker caught him with one. Now, Whittaker set it up beautifully. So, first of all, if you go watch Miguel Class's video on X or his Patreon, which is free, you can see kind of how Bobby Knuckles set up that that straight right. So it was actually the straight right that really kind of wobbled Ikram Aliskerov first, right? So he steps in. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what his video says, but go watch that video. He steps in and he throws a really hard low kick. And that gets Aliskerov reacting. He reacted on it quick. And Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker, he picked it up quick too. So he goes in, he steps in with, he's got that wide karate set, steps in and whack! Rear right kick. And what does Aliskerov do? It's his lead leg. He's getting smashed 3 times, I think it was, 3 low kicks. And he's lifting it up. So Robert Whittaker steps in and doesn't do anything. What does Ikram Aliskerov do? Drops his hands, picks that leg up. Bingo, I got you. And he did. He got him. It was beautiful. Steps in. Straight right down the pipe. Just down the pipe. And he starts doing the chicken dance. It was a nice setup. And it was the first read he really made of the entire fight. And it worked magnificently. Now, granted, Ikram Aliskerov kind of, you know, he did have 2 weight cuts back to back. Sure. But, man, Bobby set it up beautifully. So Aliskerov just kind of goes, you know, back to the fence trying to survive. Robert Whittaker throws the jab, cross, rear high kick, and Aliskerov kind of falls over himself trying to get rid of that. And then you'll see Bobby Knuckles, he turns to the side, and he gets an angle on Ikram Aliskerov, and boom, jab, and throws the right uppercut right under the arm, right underneath the shoulder of Ikram Aliskerov. And that pretty much put him down. A little bit of ground and pound later, and the fight was over. So what does this mean for Bobby Knuckles? Probably nothing, honestly. Ikram Aliskerov's not a ranked opponent. It would have been a much bigger, impressive fight, obviously, if it was Khamzat Chimaev, sure. But like he said in the post-fight interview, somebody asked him, like, yeah, if you fought Khamzat, you kind of probably would have lost, huh? Like that. What are we asking here? What are we doing? Because, guys, that is ballsy to tell Robert Whittaker that. The guy who just knocked out Ikram Aliskerov in Saudi Arabia, The Saudis wanted Aliskerov to win, most likely. But no, Bobby Knuckles, baby. Got the job done. Beautiful. But yeah, I can't believe the guy was like, hell, but you probably would have lost it with Khamzat, right? Like, go look for that. It was weird. He was like, yeah, and if I had waffles or eggs instead of waffles this morning? Like, what? What are we asking? What are we asking? So for Bobby Knuckles, like, what do I want to see from him next? I really do want the Sean Strickland fight. I think that's the most fun fight. You get one slappy boy versus one karate boy. You know, that'd be a really fun fight, huh? I mean, both former champions, no title defenses, which is wild, right? That Robert Whittaker doesn't have a title defense. Because remember, Yoel Romero missed weight, so his title really wasn't on the line that night. Just a loss. And that was in the Romero rematch. Fantastic performance from Robert Whittaker. I can't get enough of what Robert Whittaker did. But the Sean Strickland fight is the one that I think is the best option for him. Just two former champions going at it. Obviously, there's the Chimaev fight, but I wouldn't take Khamzat Chimaev's fight if it's not 5 rounds. And I honestly wouldn't put a whole camp into it if he's not going to show up. He didn't get anything from beating Aliskerov here. He didn't get anything for beating Ikram Aliskerov. Like, that's a fight you're supposed to win. You're the third-ranked guy in the world at middleweight fighting an unranked guy. Granted, I felt like Aliskerov it should be a ranked fighter. He has a hard time getting fights. Yeah, it sucked for him. But no, I wouldn't do any. Like, Chimaev, you're fighting on my terms. We're going to Perth. You are fighting 5 rounds. I don't care if it's the co-main. I don't care if it's the first fight on the card. You are fighting 5 rounds. You're not going to weasel your way out of this because somehow Khamzat Chimaev looks like he weasels his way out of a fight like that. Out of hard fights, I'm only going 3 rounds. Oh, I'm sick. I pull out. Like, Leon Edwards, I get he kind of, the COVID stuff, he couldn't get around. Travel was hard there. But since then, like, the Nate Diaz fight, he missed weight on purpose, bro. You can't convince me he didn't miss weight on purpose. Straight up. So, I like that. There's also Imavov, so a lot of this is like timing, right? So Strickland just beat Costa, and he really didn't get hurt. Nassourdine Imavov is another option I would like to see for Robert Whittaker after that UFC Saudi Arabia win. And you got that because you got all of these guys fighting at once. So Strickland didn't take damage. Imavov beat Cannonier a couple weeks ago. And that's another fight that we could see. And I think Imavov was rumored to step in to face Robert Whittaker on this short notice, but like it's not fair to Nassourdine Imavov, who just beat Cannonier, and why would he take that on short notice? To move up a spot? Because he's not going to jump Sean Strickland, because Sean Strickland has a win over him. So you got Duplessis, you've got Strickland number 2, I believe, and then you got Izzy number 3. Like, if Imavov beat Robert Whittaker, he's not jumping over Israel Adesanya, who's about to get who basically has got the title shot. It's pretty much confirmed. If it's not confirmed already, I could be wrong. So yeah, that let the division play out. Maybe Imavov gets Sean Strickland, or maybe Whittaker fights Strickland, and then Imavov can kind of weasel the way in there or something like that. I don't mind him like waiting out on this one. The Aliskerov was the right move for him. Kind of waiting, and let's see how this plays out, because it wouldn't have been fair to Imavov if he had to fight Whittaker on such a short notice, on 2 weeks' notice essentially. Alexander Volkov, though, took on Sergei Pavlovich and put on a master class performance, man. A lot of people were so hyped on Sergei Pavlovich, especially going into that Tom Aspinall fight, right? So Sergei Pavlovich comes in and he loses the fight to Tom Aspinall, and he falls to 18-2. Yeah, that was a short notice fight, so you can kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. But I've always thought, like, Pavlovich is good, but he has really big arm swings. He's plotting footwork, kind of your generic run-of-the-mill heavyweight fighter, right? Something you expect to see, a big heavyweight puncher. Francis Ngannou is kind of an outlier. He has decent footwork. He has actually pretty good footwork, honestly. But you got Tom Aspinall's great footwork. Cyril Gane has fantastic, the best in the division footwork. So you got these guys, and then you got guys like Sergei Pavlovich, Tai Tuivasa, who he just beat not too long ago. Derek Lewis, these guys that are just plotting. Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Those guys, they're all like, I'm going to punch you hard, and you're just going to have to deal with it. If you make a mistake, I'm betting on you not making a mistake. I'm betting on you making a mistake. That's what Pavlovich says. and I can land something. Well, these two were former sparring partners, and Volkov was like, "Yeah, I used to like go black when we fought because he hits so heavy." And it's like, "Oh, wow, okay." That didn't happen there. Volkov put on a masterful performance. And people forget just how good Alexander Volkov is. A 37-10 record, right? He doesn't get too many knockouts. He's got 24 knockouts, 4 submission wins. But, like, man, he's been on a tear lately. I'm looking at his record now. And since losing to Aspinall from that arm lock, he lost to Cyril Gahn before that. But he's beat Rosenstruck. He's beat Alexander Romanov, which was an easy fight for him. Tied to Avasa via Ezekiel choke. I forgot about that. And then, obviously, he was supposed to fight Almeida. And Almeida pulled out because Volkov was rebooked to fight Sergei Pavlovich. Kind of moving the division along here. Jelton Almeida, you know. So Sergei Pavlovich comes out, and he cannot deal with what Volkov is offering. So Volkov's going to strike from southpaw, and he's going to strike from orthodox. He does both sides. And he fought both sides very well in this fight. He threw a lot of open side body kicks when he was in southpaw. That's where both of their feet are face-to-face instead of crossed like that. So in an orthodox versus orthodox or a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, your feet are on opposite sides, your lead foot. But in a open stance matchup, they're together. And that leaves, whap, that open side body that Volkov smashed all night. Now, granted, Sergei Pavlovich's cardio didn't look terrible. Actually, I felt he looked like the more fresh fighter. He was landing better in the third round than he was in the first round. But Pavlovich's problem was the fact that he didn't have an answer for the length of Alexander Volkov. It was just a swing and counter. And when you have a guy with like a, 5, 6, 7 inch reach advantage, no telling what it was, who uses it well. He's not Stefan Struve, who doesn't use his length. It's Alexander Volkov, who does use his length. Think about it. Like, think back to that Derek Lewis fight with Volkov. He was piecing Derek Lewis up until that last second knockout. Then we got the fantastic "My Balls Was Hot" video. Great win for Volkov, man. I was really impressed with it. And normally, there's two things he's scared of, which is hilarious. He's scared of wrestlers, deathly afraid of them. And he's also scared of heavy hitters. Guess what? He did good against a heavy hitter. If he were to fight Jelton Almeida, who knows how that would go. Almeida won. Yeah, he fought Romanov, and Romanov's kind of a grappler. Kind of. And he won that. But yeah, I was happy for Alexander Volkov. I thought, like, that win right there, like, put him on a 4-fight win streak now, which is wild. Considering, he lost to the top 2 fighters in the division at the time, or 2 of the top fighters of Cyril Gahn and Tom Aspinall. But, like, think about it. Since coming over to the UFC, because he lost to, like, Chet Congo and Tony Johnson in Bellator, went over to M1 for a couple fights, and it comes through, fights Tim Johnson, Roy Nelson, Stefan Struve, and Verdum. And then that's when we get the Derek Lewis knockout. Beats Greg Hardy, thank God. Lost to Blades. Walt Harris, Alistair Overeem was a good win. A cross hook combo was nice. Gone. He beat Tibera, Tom Aspinall. Now he's on this best win streak since that initial 1, 2, 3. That's the same. Like, he joined the UFC, won 4 straight. Now he's won 4 straight. And arguably these 4 are better wins. Nah, never mind. I'm gonna take. I don't know. I mean, Verdum was kind of shot at that point. That's right after Verdum. Let me think. I'm trying to look here. Yeah, that was his second to last fight in the UFC. Oh, no. He went on to fight Olenek and beat Gustafsson, which hurt my feelings. But yeah, so good win for Alexander Volkov, man. I'm happy for it, and I hope he gets that elusive 5th UFC win. For Sergei Pavlovich, you got to get better, man. You got to have an answer to these things. And if you don't have an answer to what Volkov is bringing to these fights, like, it's going to be his length. He's going to jab. He's going to cross. And he's going to do it from both sides. He's going to like his low kicks. So what he's going to do, you have to have an answer to that. And if you don't have an answer to that, he's going to have a good day. Kelvin Gastelum looked good. Not much to say about that, honestly. He came in overweight. I don't want to give him too much time, but I felt like that was one of the better performances he's had against his Danny Rodriguez, who's a good fighter, but, like, he doesn't have a lot of knockout power, and Kelvin Gastelum's chin is iron. So, like, I kind of felt like that was going to be the case there. Is Shara Bullet Magomedov actually legit? So this is the second fight in the UFC. Dana White's already said, like, there's no way he fights in the United States. Like, they're not going to be able to get him sanctioned with his eye messed up. Whew. He's got really good striking, man. Don't get me wrong. Shara Bullet's striking is fantastic. He's got great kicks, and we knew that he was going to have great kicks coming in. But like we saw in his UFC debut, his wrestling was terrible. He got laid on by Bruno Silva for a little while, who's always a tough-ish fight. But, man, I don't know. Like, I'm still not sold on him. His striking is great. His hand speed is very, very fast. And he's exactly the kind of fighter that you want to see in this middleweight division, who's kind of struggling for contenders and looking for the next era of fighters, right? He took on Antonio Trocoli, and, I mean, I ain't got much to say about that because the dude was terrible grappling. I mean, horrible. He comes in on short notice. He was supposed to fight Aliskerov last week before Aliskerov was rebooked, so they brought him against Shara Bullet. Just as tough as a task, if you ask me. Yeah, I don't know. Like, Trocoli really did show me that he's not UFC ready. Like, he pinned Shara Bullet against the fence for that long stretches of this fight, like very long stretches of this fight, and he just couldn't get a takedown. Now, is Shara Bullet working on his takedown defense? Assuredly he is, but I don't think it's good enough to compete with the better wrestlers in that. Like, I think somebody like Jared Cannonier would have a field day with him, or Vettori would have a really good day with him. But like, man, if you can't keep guys off of you, and you're a great striker, like he is, he's fine to strike off the back foot. He loves doing that. He loves kicking off the back foot. He has really good crescent kicks and stuff like that. It's beautiful striking. But his defense is just kind of meh. And Trocoli couldn't get a takedown for his life. Like, you could have gave him a baseball bat and a head start, and he still could not have gotten Shara Bullet down. Now, what I did like from Shara Bullet is the finishing sequence was beautiful. So he read after 3 rounds of it that Trocoli is bending over at the waist to get a takedown. And in the 3rd round, Antonio Trocoli's tired. So Shara Bullet's like, all right, I got him this time. So what does he do? He waits for the takedown. The takedown comes. He pivots, gets that angle, and boom, knees up the middle. Beautiful performance. I mean, absolutely fantastic. And then he just had to follow up with some strikes to kind of put him away. So I really like seeing that from him. I thought that was one of the things that made him unique as a fighter in this division. Now, he's a really good striker, so it would be fun to see him against guys like Israel Adesanya or Michel Pereira would be, Michel Pereira versus Shara Bullet. Give me that all day. We're going to have some fancy stuff going on here. Give me that. I just thought about it, guys. Yeah, Trocoli, I don't care to ever see him fight again. But Shara Bullet, let's work on a takedown defense. Keep him away from Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel said he wants it. No, don't give it to him. Johnny Walker had another meme knockout. And when I say that, he had nothing for Volkan Oezdemir. Absolutely nothing. Walker, man, it's weird. He went to SBG, and it's like he's gotten so much worse. They opened up the main card, so if you missed that, a 1st round knockout, and it was perfect. So what Volkan Oezdemir did here, we know Volkan Oezdemir has good hands, and we know he has power. But what he was doing, he's going to the body. Oop, knocked my camera. Let me see if I can fix that first. He's going to the body with a left, and he was coming up right with top. You see it a lot with like Ilia Topuria, where he throws to the body. He changed the levels with his strikes. Volkan Oezdemir did that to set up a Joe Frazier-esque. Now, it wasn't Joe. Don't get me wrong. I'm not calling Volkan Oezdemir Joe Frazier, but you saw a lot of this with what Joe Frazier did, where he throws these left hooks to the body. But what he really wanted to do was throw the left hook to the body enough to where Johnny Walker's like, oh, I gotta get my hands down to stop this body shot because they're killing me in the 1st round. And he pops up with boom, beautiful left hook. And that just like sent Johnny Walker rolling down. Yeah, you know how it is with Johnny Walker. There's never a normal, oh, I got knocked down. Oh, boom. It's wild to think that he knocked out like Khalil Roundtree of all people. Now that loss probably made Khalil Roundtree that much better, obviously, but ooh, man, that it was a beautiful setup from Volkan Oezdemir. I've got to admit, like, that was fantastic. Just the left hooks to the body. He was going right across to the chest too, you know. He wasn't scared to hit and strike at Johnny Walker. He knows if you get Johnny Walker on the back foot, he's not really going to strike that much. It's kind of an open secret now. So, yeah. Good win by Johnny Walker. I was very happy. Nasrat Haqparast got a stolen win over Jarrett Gordon. A lot of people thought Jarrett Gordon won that. Felipe Lima, I'm going to go over the rest of the card, guys. And forgive me if I say a lot of these names wrong because I'm Cajun and, we don't talk like this with these Russian names. Felipe Lima beat Muhammad Naimov. Fanat Fakhratinov beat Nicholas Dalby in a very close fight. I really like Nicholas Dalby. Sad he lost. Mufin Gafarov beat Kang Hyo Kang. I think that was the road to the UFC. I'm not going to try and say Magomed whatsoever. Starts with a G versus Brendanson Ribera. I can't even say the Brazilian ones. Oh, and Kang Ho Lee and Long Zhao was a really fun fight. Both of those guys were on the road to the UFC. That was actually the road to the UFC fight, not the other one. Yeah, they're trying to break into that market, that Asian market, the East Asian market for Korea. A lot of it's going to be through Japan now that you're seeing like Kai Asakura get signed and stuff like that. So yeah, overall, decent card. I wasn't complaining at all about it. I do think that we're going to have some bad cards coming up next. We got a Verna Jandiroba main event coming up. Ugh. It's going to be hard to do that. Yeah, I didn't get to live stream this one because it was during the middle of the day, but you rest assured, UFC 303. That was not 303. There we go. I did it right now. That we'll do a fight companion for that one, so you guys come hang out in the chat. In the meantime, Khamzat Chimaev, I did a film study on him thinking, oh, he's going to fight this week. Dumb me, right? And he didn't fight because he's Khamzat Chimaev. So, yeah, Chimaev film study should be on that side, actually. It's one where we look into the wrestling and how he approaches the wrestling from the middle of the cage to the cage and down, and what he does to make himself such a dangerous fighter on the feet. That's one thing you really want to check out because we go really deep into the weeds. If you like the technical, nerdy stuff for that, that's something that you're going to want to watch. It's a masterpiece, if I say so myself.